Hello and welcome. As part of the North Carolina Disaster Survival and Resiliency Schools Wellness Series, we present Herbs to Prevent Organizer Burnout. We know that resilience takes different forms, and we have found that working regularly with plant medicine can help regulate the nervous system, manage stress, and nourish the body to help us stay in our work for the long haul. My name is Ricky Bratz, and I'm an herbalist and founder of a healing arts practice called Kazemi Healing, whose purpose is to support the well-being of people working for social change and cultural change, especially BIPOC, queer, trans, and gender nonconforming folks. If the information that follows is useful to you, I invite you to connect with me on Instagram at KazemiHealing_NC or check out my website, www.kazemihealing.com. So before we jump in, why plant medicine? Our bodies know how to recognize, process, and uptake the medicinal properties of plants because humans have evolved with plants on this planet. Every single person has a family lineage that connects back to using plants for healing, and some might be further removed from those lineages than others, and some may have traditional healing with plants still alive and well in your families right now. But every person has an ancestral connection to plants, again, that our bodies recognize. So in terms of where we want to focus our energy today, we're going to be looking at 4 main areas to prevent burnout. And if you've been doing community work for really any amount of time, you probably know that burnout is prevalent in our work as organizers. The main systems affected by burnout are the immune system, the nervous system, our adrenal system, and also the heart space. So tending to them preventatively and feeding them nourishing herbs is a helpful strategy. So this means in the context of our always critical and important work as organizers, taking the time to address our own needs is just as important as the work that we do. In addition, making time to intentionally acknowledge and manage stress is necessary. So it's not just taking care of ourselves in the ways that make us feel good, but it's also like what is actually stressing us out. And I'll share a couple of ideas for, again, opening and tending the heart space as a strategy to prevent burnout. And again, the key here is to share strategies that will help prevent burnout, not necessarily treat burnout once it's already happened. And some of the strategies that I share can definitely help once we've entered the burnout phase, but are much more useful as a part of a daily self-care approach. So that'll kind of be like the lens that we're using for this today. So we're going to start with nervous system support, and pictured here from left to right is lavender, passion flower, and chamomile. So our nervous system gets depleted under stress. And this then activates the fight or flight response, or the fight or flight part of our nervous system, which is also connected to trauma response activation. You've probably heard some version of the phrase frazzled nerves, which is actually a state of being related to burnout. And the nervous system has 2 main kind of states of being, which is actually that you've heard before, I'm sure, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. So the parasympathetic is known as our rest and digest state. It's the state of being that contributes to our wellness. It's the state in which we can process our food. We can have regular bowel movements. We can have orgasms, all of these things that are sort of like indicative of a regularly functioning body. And I don't mean that to normalize certain functions over others, but kind of look at what is a state of wellness for you. And so keep that in mind as we talk about what things to kind of look for versus when our bodies are getting off track. So the sympathetic state is known as the fight or flight state of being, which is probably the more commonly known and recognized state of being. And this side of our nervous system is really the state of being that is vital for our survival and our short-term stress response. But many of us live in such a state of chronic stress which is how I would categorize burnout. I think that burnout is a state of chronic stress, that we are living with a constantly activated nervous system. So when our nervous system is in a sympathetic state, that fight or flight, versus the parasympathetic rest and digest state, it means we're living from a state of fight or flight all the time. And our body can get locked in that state, or it can just be constantly activated. So that's what I mean when I say we're living with a constantly activated nervous system. This wears our nerves and our bodies down over time. So some of my favorite plants to support the nervous system just generally are milky oats, passion flower, skullcap, motherwort, lavender, chamomile, and St. John's wort. We're only going to talk about a few of them, but many of these plants can actually soothe and calm the nervous system, and some can actually restore it. So starting with lavender, we're going to go really quick, brief intro to these plants. Just notice kind of what plant calls out to you. We're going to talk about a number of plants under these different systems, and that might be a signal to kind of look more into that particular plant for you. But lavender is native to the Mediterranean. It's probably one of the most well-known herbs for relaxation, and it's mostly identifiable by its aroma. And it can help relieve stress and headaches, anxiety, and nervousness. And we would typically use lavender as a tea, an essential oil, a tincture. Infused in honey is amazing. And then you can also use it topically in an oil or a salve. And passion flower is native to North America. It's probably one of my favorite plants for particularly just like anxiety and nervous system support. It's really excellent for circular thinking if you kind of get stuck in those revolving thought patterns over and over, especially before bed, when you lay down and everything's quiet and you kind of got this record player of thoughts on repeat. It's helpful for sleeplessness and pain. And I would use passion flower as a tea or a tincture. Chamomile is native to Southern Europe and Western Asia. It is excellent for soothing anxiety and stress that particularly affects the digestive system. And I would use this as a tea or a tincture. And I would also love to mention milky oats, which is one of the most useful plants to restore the nervous system and literally frazzled nerves. It's native to Europe, Asia, and West Africa. It can actually rebuild the myelin sheath, which is the kind of protective coating over the nervous system, and that's what helps us send messages in the nervous system. So they can actually get worn down and literally frayed. So the saying frayed nerves or frazzled nerves is real. And this plant can help restore the myelin sheath, and therefore restore that frazzled nervous system. It's very nourishing to the nervous system and the body. And you can use it as a fresh tincture because the name milky oats, if you were to take this, these are actually seed heads in the photo in the bowl here, and you squeeze it, there's a little milky substance that comes out, and that's only available when the plant is fresh at a certain stage of growth. And so it's really important to get this plant fresh, and tincture is typically the best way to preserve it. You could also dry these milky oat tops and put them in a tea blend. They're not quite as effective because the milky substance is a little bit dried up. So yeah, fresh tincture is the best way to use this plant. So talking about the immune system a little bit, pictured here, we've got garlic, hibiscus, and an elder plant, elderberry, or elderflower is what's in the photo. And talking about the immune system is important because it gets very depleted when we're under stress. So frequent colds and flus are a sign of a depleted nervous system. And a depleted nervous system can easily lead to burnout because we will be much more affected by bugs and viruses and bacteria. So we're just sort of always down and being, taken advantage of by all of the germs and bacteria that might want to invade our systems. So garlic is native to Mediterranean and sawana regions. Garlic is an incredible natural antibiotic. It's antifungal, antibacterial, and antiviral. It can help fight infections and stimulates the immune system and decreases inflammation in the body. It's really, I think one of the best ways to get garlic medicine is to just eat it. So cooking with tons and tons of garlic. If there's ever a recipe, I'm always like, yes, add 3 times, 2 to 3 times the amount of garlic that the recipe calls for. Also, garlic honey is really, really good. It's definitely like has that savory, sweet kind of vibe going on. Yeah, so eat garlic as your form of medicine. I highly recommend that. Elderberry, which is to the right, the shrub with the white flowers. Those white flowers will turn into berries. And so elderberry is also native to North America and Mediterranean regions. It has been shown to shorten the duration of colds and flus by up to 4 days. Taking it daily as a preventative. You can also shorten the duration of a cold and flu, as I just mentioned, if you take it more frequently when you're actually sick. So you can take it as a preventative, or you can take it to treat a cold or flu. So for our purposes, taking it as a preventative will help you get sick, prevent you from getting sick. So I love taking elderberry as a syrup. I love also a tea or a tincture will work as well, but a syrup is more tasty. And then hibiscus, which is in the center here. It's native to West Africa. It's also known as sorrel and jamaica. It's an excellent source of vitamin C, and it also has antibacterial properties. It has antioxidants and can help lower inflammation that fight free radicals in the body. And it's great as a tea. There are different drinks in various cultures that use hibiscus, and it turns the water just like a gorgeous red color. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about adrenal health and just kind of managing stress in general. I think of stress and the adrenals as being intimately connected. So pictured here, left to right, kind of going clockwise around the screen, is ashwagandha, nettle, and reishi mushroom. So there's many ways to manage stress, including breath work, yoga, meditation, being out in nature, or just engaging in whatever activity is relaxing and enjoyable to you. It doesn't have to be healing arts related. I think that's something we often forget. But in the herbal medicine world, there's a category of herbs called adaptogens, and they simply help the body adapt to stress, which is kind of incredible. These herbs work best when taken over a period of time, as their effects are generally cumulative. And so we'll talk first about ashwagandha, which is the largest photo. Ashwagandha is an Indian Ayurvedic herb that's native to Asia and Africa. It helps rebuild strength after periods of long illness traditionally. So it's really excellent for rebuilding from periods of burnout and also preventing burnout. And it helps the body regulate cortisol, which is our stress hormone, or one of our stress hormones. And it also helps support the adrenals. Nettle, which is in the upper right-hand corner, is native to North Africa, North America, Asia, and Europe. It's not technically an adaptogen, but it's one of the most highly nutritive herbs that we have. And it's essential for supporting the body in times of stress because it just has so many vitamins and minerals. It's so incredibly nourishing for the body. We need that nourishment in times of stress. It can be drying, so I don't recommend using it alone for long periods of time. And it's also an incredible, delicious, edible wild green that makes a great pesto. It's mostly around in the spring and the late fall, kind of when it gets cool again. So this is excellent to eat. It's also great as a tincture. And then reishi mushroom in the bottom right is native to Europe, Asia, North America. It's known as the mushroom of immortality in Chinese medicine. And reishi is just incredibly nourishing to the body, supports the immune system, healthy energy levels, and also helps the body balance stress and other mood issues. And finally, I felt I couldn't share some herbal strategies for preventing burnout without speaking about the heart, because organized heart work, it's hard work, and that makes it hard work because it's sometimes really hard to be in it consistently and over time, particularly when people are affected by these systems in different ways on a daily basis, and then kind of engaging in changing these systems that we live within. So we often go through intense emotions, constantly engaging in untangling the roots of oppression. And sometimes when we get to the burnout stage, or even like before getting to the burnout stage, this is like we're on the way to the burnout stage, it can really close our hearts and we wall ourselves off in very understandable ways. And it's a really valid response to feeling overwhelmed. But to prevent burnout, engaging in heart opening and healing activities is really important. So really just anything that brings you joy or pleasure is heart opening and healing. I especially recommend, and this is where I'm going to lean more on the healing arts side of things, but I really, really recommend heart opening meditations, especially loving kindness meditations, and just anything that's like self-love related. Also doing a daily list of 3 things that you're thankful for, just to like keep that type of energy flowing, because again, closing ourselves off and kind of starting to retreat and isolate as our signals for burning out kind of keep us disconnected from those things we are thankful for. So my favorite herbs to open the heart are mimosa, which is the pink fluffy flowers. It's known in Chinese medicine as the tree of happiness, because I mean, how can you not look at that photo and at least feel something a little bit happy? Mimosa bark and flowers have been used to lighten and open the heart, especially in times of grief. And then in the upper right, we have rose. Most species of rose are native to Asia. Rose is an incredible gentle heart tender and offers protection of the heart when we are afraid to be vulnerable. Rose is also an antidepressant and supports the heart space during times of stress and overwhelm. And then in the bottom right, we have borage. Borage is native to the Eastern Mediterranean and Swana regions. Borage as a flower essence instills courage, optimism, and confidence when facing challenges, especially for heavy-heartedness and grief. So how to use herbs? Of course, there aren't a ton of ways to experience herbs, but there are a lot of really creative herbalists out there that are making really cool products and doing other really interesting things with herbs. But generally, herbs can just be used topically or internally, right? These are like 2 basic ways. And using herbs topically can be in the form of like an essential oil, like like a spray, like an essential oil spray that you kind of spray in your room, and so you're letting that kind of like waft over you. You could use an infused oil or a salve. An example of a salve is in the middle photo, and you can kind of rub that on the body. Using herbs internally could mean eating them if it's safe to do so, which would include infusing them into a honey or infusing them into any other kind of edible thing like a vinegar to make a salad dressing or something. Also using a tincture is really common, which is basically extracting the herb in an alcohol concentrate, or as a tea, which is where we use water to extract the medicinal property of the plant. And generally, I would recommend using most of the herbs we've discussed here internally as a tincture or as a tea. And, I did mention specific other ways to use the herbs in their specific context. And also, if you don't do alcohol, it's possible to find tinctures made with glycerin or apple cider vinegar. So just wanted to note that. So where to find herbs? I'm super cheesy and put this picture of myself as an example of a local herbalist, because the best place to source your herbs from is from your local herbalist. They will definitely have the best variety, the most fresh plants, and also be able to create a custom formula combining herbs together for you if you're interested in that. There's also great herbal formulas already made that you can buy. So if you don't want to do like a whole thing with an appointment and have someone do like a custom thing for you, you could definitely buy something that's already made. I would again recommend buying them from local herbalists first, but you can often find tinctures and teas for sale in local co-ops. But just do a little Google search, like type in local herbalist or herbalist near me. There's pretty good results with that. And then, in terms of where to find herbs, you can also grow your own herbs or learn about plants to start building the confidence to gather the abundant ones that grow near you. And I also recommend learning from local herbalists for that too. They often will have classes that you can attend to learn. So I just want to say thank you so much. This was a really, really quick presentation. Really thankful for folks being here and to the Disaster and Survival School. I hope this introduction on herbs to prevent organizer burnout was helpful for you, and feel free to reach out with any questions. Take care and be well.